Hello, superstars. His name is Aaron, and he still remembers the Alamo.
His name's Tommy, and he can grow a beard all over.
And this is the Superpod Saga. Hello, and welcome to the show. Take a seat. Welcome. If it's the Superpod Saga, your favorite podcast that you're listening to right now. If you're new to the podcast, this is the show where Aaron and I bring a different topic to the table every week, and we discuss it. It's video game related. That's important. And we discuss it until there's nothing left to discuss.
It's true. We do be doing that, though.
We do it. We do that. And as has been usual lately, we're not alone. We're not alone. It's not just Aaron and Tommy. It is also Josh from the Still Loading podcast. Hi, Josh.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for being here. For our superstar listeners, how about you? Could you give a rundown of who you are? Tell us about your podcast, what video games you enjoy.
Sure. So the Still Loading podcast is my podcast, and you can find it where all good podcasts are given away for free. But you can find it on all the good podcatchers and whatnot. It's kind of a gaming grab bag podcast, is how I describe it, where I do retrospectives on individual games, but then I also do interviews with people in the industry and authors and other composers and voice actors and all over that place. A couple game developers here and there. I also do episodes. I have a long running series called it's not called anything. It's the Captain N series. For those who remember the old cartoon Captain N the Game Master, an awful video game based cartoon that no one probably would want to remember, but my friend Dexter and I decided, you know what? Let's do a rewatch show of it, where once a month we go through an entire episode of the show, and just break it down and laugh at it. And then, so yeah, it's kind of stuff like that. The last kind of description I'll give as to like why it's a gaming grab bag, like I've already run the gambit of or gamut, whatever the fuck it's called, of all these different types of episodes. I also do weirder ideas, like I did an episode a couple of years ago called Still Loading Storytime, which was me and a bunch of friends doing dramatic readings of old video game manuals.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was fun. And then last year, I did an episode called the Final Fantasy Fantasy Draft, and it's what happens when you take fantasy sports and mix it with Final Fantasy. And that was a lot of fun, had a bunch of cool people on. And so that's Still Loading. It's a gaming grab bag podcast, and it covers a wide variety of different things. And lots of history, lots of video game history thrown in there too.
Nice. To give a insight into your gaming preferences, what are your favorite video games?
Ooh, in terms of genres, I'd probably say it's either platformers. I do like RTS games a lot, even though I'm really bad at them. I do like FPSs. I kind of like most games, not all, but I would say my favorites are probably platformers and like third-person shooters / action-ish games. You know, kind of in the vein of Horizon Zero Dawn. Oh my gosh, Ghost of Tsushima, stuff like that. In terms of favorite games, just period, I don't even. Ratchet and Clank is my favorite series. I love the Ratchet and Clank games. Mario's of course up there.
Oh yeah.
I like StarCraft. I like Age of Empires. I don't know. My gaming tastes are kind of all over the place. I don't really have a specific favorite game. It's just kind of whatever I'm currently in the mood to play. And lately, it's been Age of Empires 2. And while I'm editing my own show, I play Power Wash Simulator.
Nice. That is quite the variety of games. I love it.
Yeah.
Where can people find you or the podcast on social media?
At Still Loading Pod on Twitter, as long as it's alive. Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Seriously.
And also, I guess now at Still Loading Pod on YouTube, now that it's easier to find instead of like that really long URL. So at Still Loading Pod on YouTube, at Still Loading Podcast on YouTube. And then I'm also on Twitch at Still Loading Pod.
Nice. And Aaron, where can they find the Superpod Saga?
Well, if they want to find us, not that we want to be found, don't look for us. I'm just kidding.
You already found us, but don't look for us.
Yeah.
Shit. Go away. We're at superpodsaga.com, our big old constantly expanding website, superpodsaga.com, all of our previous episodes, social medias, our blog posts. We be blogging too. Superpodsaga.com.
I will be blogging more. I'm just too much of a perfectionist. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I would rather. I'm sure everybody would rather have one big awesome article than like one kind of half-assedly Gordon Ramsay together or something.
Oh man. And also I just want to throw out there, I don't think it'll be an issue, but I got a new PC. So if there's audio differences like volumes this episode, it's because it's a new PC and everything. So please excuse if anything's weird. But we're here to talk about video games, and Aaron picked the topic for today. What are we talking about, Aaron?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about all things Xbox.
All Xbox, all day.
All of them. Mm-hmm. That's right.
And
7 hours.
7 hours minimum. If you look at your
Well, if it's Xbox, it should be 10 because X is the Roman numeral for 10.
Oh, dang it, he's
Shit.
right. He's right. Okay, we're gonna start
Let's
over.
restart the episode. Yep.
All right, buckle in, boys. 10 hours. Let's do this.
All right, I'm excited. I am only a recent Xbox person, but obviously I've played Xbox throughout, the past. But Aaron, jump in the pilot seat, guide us along the Xbox adventure.
All right. Well, yeah, the original Xbox is, well, I guess that a little bit of backstory. Microsoft kind of already had a little bit of experience in consoles, kind of, because they made the OS that ran the Dreamcast. Because you'll see on the actual console that it was made with, I think, was it Windows XP?
ME,
No.
I want to say. It's
ME,
either Windows
dang.
ME or Windows 2000. I'm pretty sure it's ME, though. You know
ME
what,
sounds
actually? I have a Dreamcast right here. I believe it has a sticker. Yeah, I believe it has a sticker, but it's actually on the other side of the room. I can go grab it if you want me to check, but it's on
Yes.
the other side of the room.
Please
All
do,
right,
because
give me-
I have a story.
Give me 2 seconds then.
Me and my wife went to a little mom and pop gaming shop last week, and I showed Jessica, my wife, a Dreamcast controller for the first time. She had never seen one in her life, or known what a Dreamcast was, and I was like, "Whoa, this is so wild!"
It is kind of weird that the cord is on the bottom of the fucking
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And then
it
you can tuck it through so that goes through on the top. There's a little loop or whatever.
yeah, man. And it's basically like the direct influence for the Xbox controller, right?
Yeah, basically the what was the original one called? The Duke.
The
It's-
Duke.
It's basically the same thing.
I hate the Duke.
It was Windows CE.
Windows
is what
CE.
Yes.
Holy
Windows
shit.
CE was the operating system on the Dreamcast.
Well, what do you know?
Yeah,
But
it's handy having a collection right here to look at.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So yeah, when Sega gracefully bowed out of the console race, Xbox kind of had like their own little foothold in there with the OG Xbox. Yeah, they released in 2001, and
Jeez.
because they had such a tight relationship with Sega, of course, Sega made, I think it was like 3 or 5 years of exclusives for the 360, or not the 360. Oh my God, for the original Xbox. And so we got things like Jet Set Radio Future and Panzer Dragoon Orta and
Mm-hmm.
Gun Valkyrie and just like a bunch of other stuff. And it was a weird little, pretty ahead of its time, because it was the only one that generation that had like a built-in hard drive. So like you didn't
Yeah, yeah.
you didn't need memory cards unless, of course, you wanted to take them over to your friend's house to show them your sweet.
I actually stored music on the hard drive. Like you could rip CDs to the hard drive. And it was a pain though, because it's like if you wanted to know what you were listening to, you had to manually enter every single thing in.
Oh,
It's not like it
God
could
damn it.
read what the titles of the songs were. So that was and of course as a kid you have nothing but free time, so I
Yeah,
would
that's
do that
true.
a whole bunch. I actually still have a bunch of albums still on that Xbox, on my original Xbox. And what's funny though is that you could in certain games you could take the music that was ripped to your Xbox and play it over and like use it in game.
Yep.
So for example, with like Counter-Strike, you could pick your own soundtrack to what you were playing as. It was a lot of fun.
coolest feature.
cool.
That's so cool.
Like you did that in the game.
Yeah,
switched
you
them?
could just pick which you could either just choose the music that was like ripped onto your Xbox, like stored on the hard drive there. It was awesome.
I know you could do that with I think it was San Andreas on the Xbox.
Yep.
Like you could switch the radio station to where you used your console music, but that's cool as hell. I know like the 360, you could like I guess on the Xbox One you could as well, but you could just like have your music running on like the old 360 or whatever OS. But that's cool as fuck.
I never got used to that whole hard drive thing because whenever you would start a game, it'd be like, where do you want to save this data to? And that always, when I was younger, I was like, what do you mean? Just doesn't it just do memory cards? And even now, when I play like older games on the Xbox, it pops that window up, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have to pick that I want to save it to the hard drive.
I did find it weird that they would like once I knew about the hard drive, I'm like, why would you even give the option for memory
Yeah,
cards? I guess
yeah.
though, but at the same time though, if you wanted to bring your save over to a friend's house, that made it easy. Like if you wanted to show them, like say they bought a game and you wanted to show them what you could do with the game, you could load a save onto that memory card and bring it over, I guess. Um, sorry, something real quick that I wanted to bring up that I think is interesting about Microsoft and Xbox. And if you already brought it up while I was checking the Dreamcast thing, I apologize. In their lead up to releasing the Xbox, they were, you mentioned before, they had a little bit of a foothold in the game industry with Windows CE on the Dreamcast, but even before then they had Microsoft Game Studios with their Microsoft Flight Simulator. They
Oh
also
yeah.
owned Age of Empires in the mid to late 90s. Like they had already owned that franchise, so they already had a little bit of a foothold in. And when they were trying to break into the console industry, they actually took a meeting with Nintendo and offered to buy them out. Like they
Yeah.
asked to
Yeah.
buy Nintendo, and Nintendo just laughed them out of the room.
As they should have. That's the right call.
It
That's
is. I mean,
hilarious.
it's crazy to think that they had that much money back then that they could have afforded to buy
Yeah.
Nintendo.
Yeah.
That's just nuts to me.
I guess it's something we don't really think about because we're on like what, our fourth generation of Xbox, but it's kind of nuts for like Microsoft to be like, we're gonna make a game console. Like anyone who says anything about a game console, like Google with Stadia or whatever, it's just kind of like a joke. So like imagine if Microsoft hadn't done this and in 2020 they're like, we're gonna make a console. They would just be laughed at.
I mean, they were laughed at back then
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it was a very big gamble for them to do that. So I'm happy that it all paid off, but it just really goes to show the only company that has really been able to penetrate the market are ones with a lot like huge, like
Yeah.
Sony, Microsoft, like Nintendo kind of lucked into it, and obviously Atari helped create it to an extent. But like the game industry was already so big in the early 2000s / late 90s that like it took Microsoft to be able to get into the console market.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at stuff now where consoles try to branch in, and between the Ouya, between trying to think, like there's a lot of the rebrands, like there's the Intellivision Amico. That's a whole
Oh
nother
yeah.
story,
Oh
though.
my gosh.
Oh my god, dude.
Stuff like that. So it really was kind of ballsy for them to do it, and I think it's different about Microsoft compared to other competitors that have tried to branch into the game industry, is that they very clearly had a focus of what they wanted to do to be different. Like
Yeah.
they looked at like, where was the industry going? Let's see how we can facilitate that change. And well, just not to like get into it too early, you can obviously we can go to whatever part of the conversation you want to next, but Xbox Live is really where the
Yes.
game industry was going, and they're the ones that really pioneered the type of online multiplayer. Like obviously the Dreamcast you could play online, but still nothing compared to what obviously the Xbox would pioneer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it felt like any online multiplayer connectivity before that was kind of like a fun feature, and for Xbox it was like, no, this is our focus.
Hmm.
And then it was like with that in the Dreamcast, at least it was proprietary. Like it was built in. It was like the PS2 and the GameCube, you'd have like a separate modem or whatever.
Yeah.
But with those, it was just like it was all built in. So you just pop in your phone cable or whatever and go to town.
It was more easier to connect to the internet with that than it was with the Nintendo Wii.
I mean, even now it's hard to connect to anything online with Nintendo stuff. The Switch is barely passable, and I love the Switch.
Damn it. And earlier we were speaking about the Duke, that
The
monstrosity, and how it drew a lot of comparisons from the Dreamcast controller. And yeah, they're very. They have like the same shape. It's got like the same, basically like the same button layout. You know, it's got the D-pad there. It's got the stick there. It's just missing. Uh, Obviously, it has the cord at the top, which is good. The
Yeah,
cord on the bottom
smart
is just
choice.
so weird. But yeah,
What
that's
about
cool.
the black and white buttons though?
Oh yeah, those are also pretty
I
goofy.
hate those.
It's funny, when the 360 came out, I was so mad they got rid of them.
No
So
way.
I had this really weird stigma against the 360 for a while because it's weird. Like, I was definitely a huge Xbox fan for the original Xbox during that generation, but then once it was the PS3/360 generation, that's when I kind of became a Sony fanboy. And I'm not
Same.
like the fanboys that engage in the console wars. It's so wild to me that that's still like
Oh,
people
right.
argue so angrily about stuff like that. But the reason I didn't like the 360 was it was one of those things that was very hipsterish of me. Like, I finally got my Xbox and I'm like, and then when they changed everything up, I'm like, this is dumb. This isn't what I remembered from the original Xbox. Why are you putting these buttons in more convenient locations for me? I want them less convenient black and white buttons over on the left hand side that I have to physically move my hand away from anything usable. So it's a hit. I have to take my thumb off the joystick in order to hit them.
It's so far from the joystick too.
It is, and it's just funny because I didn't like the inclusion of the bumpers. Now I'm used to it, obviously, but
Yeah.
as a kid, you're stubborn and you just want to
Yeah,
like what
yeah.
you like and not allow things to change. And but like the original Xbox, man, like my biggest memories of that, the reason why I kind of always gravitated to it is because I would throw and go to Halo parties all
Yep.
the time.
Nice.
So you could do so much local networking. It was the first time really with home consoles that you could do LAN parties like you would see
Yeah,
with PCs.
yeah.
It was great.
That
That's
is
true. Yeah.
that's my only real memory. I didn't have an Xbox, but I had a friend who did, and it was going over and playing Halo, hooking up two Xboxes or to two TVs and having 8 people all playing at the same time.
One of the earliest memories I have with an Xbox. We we didn't have one for a while. Like my brother, my brother Devin ended up getting one for his birthday like a few years after all this. But there was this. Whenever I went to my dad's house, there was this store we would stop at. It was a game rental store, and I forget what the fuck the name of it was. It was like software, etc.
Yep,
I
yep,
think.
that's right.
Poss-
Hmm.
or maybe it's a different one. I don't know. But yeah, there was a store where you go to rent like consoles, and you could actually rent like a few games along with it. And so we every so often we would rent an Xbox, and we would get like Fusion Frenzy and Dead or Alive 3, I think, and like two other
Hmm.
games. And my brother and I would just jam those for like 2 days straight, and so
Man.
especially Fusion Frenzy being like the Xbox's Mario Party, it was like wasn't as good as Mario Party, but it was still pretty fun.
Console
The-
renting, I can't even imagine.
I always thought that was such a surreal thing as a kid. I remember seeing that at Blockbuster. I'm like, why would you rent a console? Just buy it. And then, of course, as an adult, I'm like, okay, that actually sounds kind of appealing because
Yeah.
I don't want to spend $500 on a console that I don't know if I'll even have time to play, type of thing. But if I could spend, like, I don't know how much it would cost back then, but yeah.
Yeah.
No, and the Xbox I feel like has a bunch of games that really, because everyone talks about Halo on the original one,
Mhm.
and then obviously when you get to the 360, you have Halo, Gears of War, and Call of Duty. I know it wasn't exclusive to the Xbox, but it was definitely more popular
Yeah,
on the
for sure.
360 than it was on the PS3 for a lot of different reasons. But on the original Xbox, there's a lot of really good under the radar games. Some of them exclusive, some of them not. The Chronicles of Riddick games,
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yep.
yeah, those are really, really good, solid games. Also, this one's not a console exclusive, but I like to shout it out any chance I get when people like bring up this era of gaming and they want to talk about like some hidden gems. Metal Arms Glitch in the System.
Oh yeah.
It is a fantastic third-person shooter. It's really funny. It's got a fun world, and it's a little difficult. It's a little chaotic and difficult now, but it's still a lot of fun. And the physics are a little floaty, but there. And also, like you mentioned them before, all the different Sega games. The Jet Set Radio Future. They also had a Skies of Arcadia port. that came out for it. There's a lot of really good games I feel like on the original Xbox, and there's a bunch of like exclusive platformers like Blinks the Time Cat or something like that,
Blake's the
right?
Time Sweeper, yeah,
Time Sweeper.
and Voodoo Vince, and yeah, there was a
Hmm.
bunch of them. I mean, they made Blinks too, but that sucked. But
Yeah.
yeah, there was
I
what's
feel
cool
like
too.
over the
But
past month, Aaron has just been obsessing over slept on Xbox games.
because there's so many, dude. There was was it there was the Otogi series, Otogi 1 and 2, that basically started Dark Souls. There was in that generation, there was it was weird. The Xbox, GameCube, and PS2 all had their own exclusive Yu-Gi-Oh game as well too, so that was cool.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know that.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't forget fucking Torque, the prehistoric punk.
How could you?
And yeah, there's just a lot of really slept on stuff because anybody else who had an Xbox back in the day, they were just like, oh, you need to own Halo and like you need to own fucking Conquer and like Mech Assault and stuff like that. But there's so much other cool shit, dude. Like Dead or Alive 3 for sure is that was I think I wouldn't say my favorite on the system, but it was one of them for sure because fighting games just slapped so hard back then.
I mean, it is good. There is good reason Halo is always brought up. It like truly revolutionized
Mhm.
first-person shooters for the home console. Because like there was other games that had similar control schemes. Excuse me. Like really, what the reason why Halo I think clicked so much is that once people understood how the control scheme of that game worked, it basically set the standard for almost every other FPS
Oh yeah.
going forward, even third person games, with the left joystick going for move forward, move backwards, strafe left and strafe right, and then the right joystick just where you can look around at everything. It really revolutionized stuff. And it's funny because I'll go back and play some older FPSs. Like I've been somewhat recently playing on stream the original Medal of Honor games,
Oh
and
nice.
they're fun, but if you remember what the original control scheme was for it, X was fire. Like if you don't change the control scheme up, you hit X to shoot, I think circle. Like it's just so surreal to me now. And the controls were on the left joystick, move forward, move backward, look left, look
Yep.
right.
Yep.
And then on the right joystick it was strafe left, strafe right, look up, look down. I'm like, that just seems conflicting to me. Like it
Yeah.
the left, because then they changed it with Halo. With the left joystick is all of your like legs movement, like how your legs will move forward, backward, left, or right, and then your right joystick is how your head turns. Like it just makes so much more sense.
It-
But in the older games, they would switch, they would split them up from half on one joystick, half on the other. And while those older games still had like a similar control scheme to Halo, Halo was one that popularized it, revolutionized it, and really kind of like it still feels good to play Halo even on an original Xbox. And on top of that, like it was a bold move for Microsoft anyway because they bought out Bungie. Bungie was a Mac developer. They were going to
Yeah.
make Halo
Oh, yeah.
for Macintosh computers. The kind of the spiritual predecessor, the Marathon games, which I've never played, but there was a bunch of them for Mac systems, and they're for all intents and purposes, or from everything I've heard, I should say, they're pretty solid first-person shooters. I know some people really, really like them, and Halo just was kind of a continuation. There's some elements brought over. They're not part of the same world, but there are some like Easter eggs and stuff like that. And then obviously Halo with the LAN parties. Like I will never forget all the different Halo parties that I had as a kid. And I still remember one I threw one at when I was still living at my parents' house. We had a whole bunch of people upstairs and a whole bunch of people down in the basement, and we ran an Ethernet cable. Like we had two USB hubs, or not USB, sorry, Ethernet hubs, one upstairs and one downstairs, and we had a cable running between the two of them, so that way you could play together. And I still remember in Halo 1 specifically, if you create a default profile, the game will just give you a random name, and it was always something like the Big Cheese or Stumpy. That was a popular one. Stumpy, the Bear, the Big L. I don't think the Big Cheese was on there, but the Bear, the Big L, Stumpy. There was, and one of my favorites, and the kind of the origin of the story. It was just Howard. You could just be called Howard.
Howard.
And my brother was getting very frustrated because whoever was Howard, I don't remember which one of my friends was, but whoever was Howard was downstairs and my brother was upstairs. And you would play through and see, Howard killed so and so, Howard killed so and so, so and so was killed by Howard, so on and so forth. And you would just see that as on the top of the screen. And after like the sixth time in under 10 minutes, I just hear this screech from upstairs, just Howard, just my brother losing his mind because whoever Howard was had just killed him for the seventh time in 10 minutes.
God damn it, Howard, stop.
There's Master Chief, and then there's Howard.
Howard Chief.
That's his actual last name is Chief. Like the ultimate birth certificate and everything. Oh man. What do y'all think about like the UI for the Xbox? Like what the hell do you think was going on there?
I never used it too much, so I can't really comment on it. I apologize.
I love the visuals of it. I love the visuals of it. It was fine. It worked. It's better. It was like UI back on the original Xbox wasn't anything really to write home about. It was just bare bones. It got the job done. It was more visually interesting than the PS2, but it didn't have that iconic startup sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the goop and the tube and stuff. Like, yeah, it was just it was like weird alien technology. Like it's got the honeycomb bullshit in the background, and it's got like little cords with like where you see the buttons for like A select or B back, there'd be like little cords holding them in place and shit. It was it was like a little alien spaceship.
Yeah, it's like you're controlling alien technology.
The 360 was a lot more streamlined. So it's funny, I've always been a latecomer to the 360. I got my first Xbox when the 360 was already out, and I got it for like my 16th birthday. And then when I got a 360, it wasn't until 2012, a year before the Xbox One came out.
Ooh.
Then the Xbox One I actually got pretty early on, like probably like 2014 or 15. So there was still, like another 5 years before the system. I mean, I still barely touched my one, but I played the 360 and original a lot.
Hell yeah. Yeah, the bulk of my Xbox memories were with the 360 and the one and I guess now the Series S, but I just had like a few little bits and pieces of the original Xbox, but what I remember, yeah, it was cool. Had a lot of cool games. The later controller was really cool, and they had a lot of cool like variants of the console too, because you can get it in a bunch of different colors. Like you could get one that was see-through green, that's apparently
that's a good
rare,
one.
and
we need more console colors. I miss colored consoles.
I know.
That actually, I was going to ask if you guys could pick like an ideal console color, like a special themed console for whether it's a 360 or otherwise. What would it be? And what was I going to say? It like console exclusives be damned. Like if you want an Uncharted Xbox, that's okay. Just like, what would be your dream console like kind of theme or exclusive theme or something like that?
If I could go first, I want the 90s colored see-through case, the like a teal green see-through. I want one of those. Looks like it's straight out of the 90s. I want to be able to see the insides of my Xbox Series X.
Dirty, but okay.
I'd say give me a Switch that's like what color did you say, Tommy?
Teal green.
Fuck. I was gonna say see-through green as well, but I'll change my answer. I'll go like a see-through like purple, like the
Yeah. Ooh, that's good too. What about you, Josh?
So for me, I guess it would have to be, I don't know. I've always enjoyed the original versions of almost every console. However, I will say I really loved like that purple see-through that the N64 had. So I would love to see something like that in the future, like a purple and if we're going with like a game theme. If maybe a kind of like how the Switch has, the Animal Crossing, New Horizons Switch or whatnot, something, or in the, Xbox always has their Halo or Gears of War one. Mm-hmm. If I was trying to pick like a single, I'd probably go Ratchet and Clank because that they've never gotten their own console, and I feel like there's a lot of cool like alien looking technology that you could use to incorporate onto the design of it.
I changed mine. I vetoed to change mine. I want a Switch. I want it to be like see-through yellow, like a bright neon yellow, and then I want like a Final Fantasy IX version with like the crystal from like the Final Fantasy IX logo on the back, just around the back. That's what I want.
There
and then
you
it
go.
plays the Final Fantasy IX intro music.
Yeah, just on the just on like the main menu of the Switch. It's just
Oh, we're
yeah.
getting copyright struck. They're knocking at the door right now.
Fuck. I tried to make it as bad as possible, but they still caught me.
Yeah, as long as you don't go over 10 seconds, you should be good.
All right, are we moving on to the 360 now?
Let's
or is
move to
anybody
the
else got any-
360.
Whatever. You're
gonna-
you're the one guiding,
Yeah,
steering this
you-
ship.
We're
I'm
in the
still on for the
passenger
ride.
seat. We're just slamming
Alright.
around in the back.
We're going to the sun, boys. But yeah, the 360. Yeah, this one I'm pretty sure I got one close to when it launched because my dad got me one for my birthday a long time ago, and I have a lot of. Yeah, this one I really liked it. Like if I had to pick a favorite generation, it'd be between like the generation of like the GameCube and the OG Xbox, or like the 360 one, because the 360 is when basically it got us where we are now. Like there was so much that the 360 started and did that
Yeah.
I look back upon and I kind of tear up a little bit. Like remember when you'd had to have Xbox Live Gold in order to use Netflix, and like it didn't have Roku's back then, so it was like one of the only ways you could really watch Netflix on your TV. It was so weird.
Yeah, that's right, because TVs didn't just have apps on them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when the 360 came out, like they were starting to roll out those huge plasma screen TVs with HDMI and stuff.
Yes,
Some
yes.
people probably still had a compositor component or whatever with their big fat boy CRT.
Red, white, yellow cords, baby.
This
Oh,
era
boy.
was so strange just because of how many different, like, the Wii decided to keep with SD video, and then the 360 and PS3 both weren't quite sure if they were going to commit fully to HD or if they were going to stay in SD, but they wanted to go HD, you could tell. And so like that's why some of those early games, like they would give like the resolutions on the back of the box to let you know like what resolution you could play in. The 360, I mean, obviously its biggest known quantity is the Red Ring of Death, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
Which Microsoft did own up to. Did you guys see for the 20th anniversary of Xbox, Microsoft made a full documentary series you can watch on their YouTube?
No.
That's cool.
Tell me
It's
more.
really good. They talk about all the highs and they talk about the lows. They don't sugarcoat. I'm sure they sugarcoat bits of it because it's from them, but they talk about the failings of the Xbox One. They talk about the big failing with the 360. At the beginning, like obviously the 360 didn't fail, but the Red Ring of Death was a major issue. I think at one point in time, I forget what it was, but it was like an extremely high percentage of all 360 sold red ringed. It was like over 20% or something like that. It might have even been above 50, but I don't remember. So I think it was at least like 20 or 25%, but like that's huge. That's a huge part. Like 1 in every 4, that's crazy.
When it was happening, it kind of felt like it was going to be something like this is going to happen to every Xbox eventually. That's how like out of hand it was getting.
That's crazy. I mean, maybe I was just one of the lucky few, but I only ever got it. Like I had my original 360, like the weird shaped white one. I had that for like I want to say 5 years before the disc drive went out, and I only had the red rings once, and that was just because I dropped my fucking power brick on concrete. So it's understandable. Then I just bought a new power brick, and it was
Did
fine.
the power brick break the concrete?
Probably those fucking it was less of a power brick and more of like a power 3 bricks in a line.
Sorry, I just looked it up. The Game Informer in 2009 reported that there was a 54.2% failure rate.
Oh,
54, more than 1 out of every 2. Isn't that wild?
That's insane.
That is insane. Holy
Oh
fuck.
man, I can't imagine being Microsoft as this is starting happening and getting that number.
And this was from the inverse.com. And even more alarming, the failure rate after the initial repair was still 41.2%.
Jeez.
So like,
Ugh.
it at every turn, that thing just was begging to die. It just would go down. My buddy actually got his red ring, dude. He got his second hand, and the way he fixed it, and I don't recommend this, But essentially, what was happening is that some of the connectors pins were loose, like on the motherboard. So what he would do is wrap his 360 in towels to purposely overheat it, so the
Oh,
motherboard would start to bend and like become a
Oh,
little bit
oh
more
my God.
wobbly, so the pins could connect more thoroughly. And that's how he got it to work for like a year or something like that, or for a couple months or something. He would just purposely overheat his system
I'm
so it
gonna
would
pass
work.
out. I'm getting woozy from hearing that.
that's insane.
It's a
Wow.
real shame because like for me personally, I would consider the Xbox 360 like the most perfect of the Xboxes. I feel like
See, it's
That's
it's funny. I actually think I haven't played the Series X, so I can't say, but I actually kind of prefer the one to the 360.
Ooh, that's interesting. But at the same time, I had a college roommate who had the 360, so the Xbox I played the most, aside from the Series X now, was the 360.
I can't say which one I'd prefer either. Like if I had to pick one, obviously like hardware wise, I would go with 360 Slim because that was just beautiful. That thing
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
so slick, and it had the built-in Wi-Fi card too, so you didn't have to worry about didn't have to get that separate fucking dongle that worked like donkey balls.
Oh my God. And know what's even crazier to think about? We completely forgot to talk about this. We mentioned the internal hardware storage from the original Xbox.
Yeah.
The 360, some of the models didn't come with that. You had the
Yeah.
Xbox 360 Arcade, which was
Yeah.
just basically a console with these massive 60-hour games and no way to save them.
Yep.
You would have to buy separate hard drives that would plug into the side of the system, not like you would in some, like in the later models in the 360 Slims you could install them directly in the back, but like these were like you would take off the one side of the console. It was like just a little door, and then you could pop these like extra cartridge, like the almost like a cartridge, but it was a hard drive into it. It's so weird.
That's so fucking wild to think about. I still have like one or two extra 360 hard drives in my basement somewhere.
Whoa.
Hell yeah.
I think I think the reason why I ended up just kind of enjoying the one more than 360 is just for all the stuff we just talked about. Like at every turn before I bought my 360, I would hear stuff Red Ring of Death.
Mm.
Oh, you can't save games onto your console. You have
yeah.
you have to buy separate hard drives. And I'm like, okay, why not just give me memory cards again then at that point?
Yeah.
Like there's no, but this was also the era where you would have to start installing games on your system. I even remember when which console was it? It might have been either Red Dead Redemption, the original one, or it might have been Grand Theft Auto, where you had to get like the 360 wouldn't have been able to hold it or something like that. There was something
That sounds
weird
right.
where you had to buy like an extra like USB thumb drive to help install stuff or something like that. I might be misremembering this, so I apologize if I'm wrong with that. But I remember because I worked at GameStop when GTA 5 came out. I remember 360 users had an issue where you couldn't, depending on what type of memory you had in your system. Like if you had the Slim, you were fine because that had 250 gigs. But if you had one of the older models, you would need to buy a separate memory card. I think that's what it was, like a USB stick or something, in order to install Grand Theft Auto 5, because this was pretty much the start of the era of games. You had to install them. You couldn't just play them straight off the disc.
I can't believe hearing you say Grand Theft Auto 5 on Xbox 360 just completely broke my brain.
2013 baby, or 2012,
Oh,
I
God.
forget. Yeah, it was
2013.
that game has that's it is wild to think about that Grand Theft Auto 5 came out on the 360 slash PS3, and we also got, I'm pretty sure you're getting versions on the PS5 and Xbox
Yeah, yep.
Series X, and we still have yet to see the next GTA. I mean, to be fair, I people always complain about it. I'm like, listen, I get it, but Rockstar games are gigantic, and
Yeah.
when you took the stuff they did out of the SD era, like out of PS2, original Xbox, and GameCube and stuff like that, games became significantly more expensive and significantly more time consuming to make. And that's why their production, because their games are massive to begin with, and that's why it took so long for them to really even come out with anything substantial on the later generations, because their games are too freaking big. I mean, even
Yep.
look at some of the games developed by like Sony Studios, right? You know, like Guerrilla Games, they did Horizon Zero Dawn. They it took them 5 years in between, and that was also using the same engine as the previous one. So it's not like they had to build anything from the ground up this time.
Yeah.
Like these games take a long time to build, and it takes a long time to plan out content. Now, I don't know why it's still taking Rockstar this long to make another GTA game, but I'm not surprised that the time span went from like a year or two between GTA releases to like 5 to 6. So now it's been over a decade. But yeah, like even Red Dead, the original Red Dead came out in 2010 and the sequel came out in 2018. Those games are massive. It took them 8 years to do, and that came out 8 years, and they started development on Red Dead 2 shortly after Red Dead 1. Like it's not like they just took a 4-year break and then worked another 4 years. No, it took them a long ass time. So I'm not surprised that like Rockstar and in general around this era, game dev started slowing down crazily in a crazy way.
Want to know what's nuts? You mentioned all of it, but I want to pinpoint it. Red Dead Redemption, the first one, is still stuck on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. There's no remakes, there's no remasters, there's no versions for the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One or PC. It's just wild that like a game that was so huge, influential, like all that stuff is still just an Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 game.
What's crazy is you can actually still play those online too. Like the online functionality still works for them.
Bizarre.
That is bizarre. But man, that 360 controller though.
Oh yeah.
I don't have anything to say about.
No,
Rockstar,
it's a good controller.
That was a terrible transition.
No, it was good.
Yeah.
Know what played great with the Xbox? Know what made the Rockstar games great to play? The Xbox 360 controller. There you go.
Yeah, say it, Aaron.
You know what made Rockstar games play smoothly? The Xbox 360 controller.
Oh, good one. Good point, Aaron. Good. I agree.
Thanks, Tommy. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, that was a really astute opinion.
Except for the D-pad.
The D-pad wasn't great.
Yeah.
Squishy.
They came in all sorts of cool colors though, which is cool because like they would have all sorts of different like patterns on them, and they would come in different. Like I had a chrome blue controller. I had one that was like it was black and white, but there's all sorts of crazy shapes on it, like yin yangs and dragons and shit. And then I had a couple other ones that I forget. I think one was just solid white, but they came in all sorts of crazy shit.
And it had the keyboard. The keyboard you could plug in the bottom.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And so you could text somebody, or you could message somebody and be like, "Haha, I had sex with your mom."
Yeah, you said lots of things that are frowned upon now.
I would love that type of trash talk. I'm gonna do things that would be frowned upon to your mother.
The smallest buttons you can possibly imagine.
What does that mean?
If you're a young person listening to the podcast, go and Google the Xbox 360 keyboard and I don't know, just look at it and
admire it.
The other thing, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say you might have been saying this, but the 360 didn't that come? It came with a headset for everyone.
I don't know if every model did. I know mine did though.
I don't think the arcade did.
Oh yeah, not the arcade one, but like the base Xbox 360. That was just their push into to get everyone to play online multiplayer, and I love that, giving everyone. It only had one ear, but still allowing everyone to talk to everyone else with an Xbox is huge.
Did ever or I guess Tommy didn't, but Josh, did you ever own one of those cool like I guess like limited edition consoles that they made? Like they had the Star Wars one that was like R2D2, they had the Gears of War one, the Simpsons movie one.
They had a Simpsons movie one?
Yeah, there was one based off of the Simpsons movie. Like the controller was orange and the
really
console was orange and had Homer Simpson's head.
Oh yeah, I see it. Weird.
I did not know that. No, I didn't have it. I don't really have any like special consoles for any of my systems. I would always get the base model because I'm like, why would I spend more money on something that I can play the same thing? Like it looks nicer, and like it just looks nicer. I mean, but with the 360 in general, other than like I said before, like I preferred the original Xbox to the 360, and I was definitely a little bit of a hipster about it. And so when Halo 3 came out, I mean, that was a huge launch. I remember like that launch was gigantic. bigger than the Halo 2 one, which I vividly remember because I was in high school at the time. But I could never get into Halo 3 the way I did in Halo 2. Something about the visuals of Halo 3 I just did
Oh,
not
weird.
enjoy as much. And I think part of it was like I remember playing Halo 3 multiplayer, and it was always so much harder for me to find people because the visuals were a lot more muddy, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. Like, not in terms of like clarity, like it was very crystal clear, but like the textures they used were a lot more muted. And so instead of having these bright, vibrant Spartans that would stand out against the backdrop that you would see in Halo 1 and 2, Halo 3, it was a lot more muddy, so it was harder for me to spot people. So part of that was definitely just me. Part of that was definitely just me not playing all that well. Like, I'm not trying to say it's the game's fault for me not being able to find people. It's just for some reason visually it was harder for me, and that was definitely a very much a me issue because other people played the game fine and it was no big deal. I do have the semi controversial opinion that I don't like Gears of War all that much.
Oh boy. No, I was actually gonna bring it up. It's kind of crazy how, especially going back to like the first Gears of War, it's tough to look past how muddy that game is. Like, you want to talk about muddy? That is the darkest, drabbest color scheme, and the textures haven't aged all that well. But I like Gears of War enough. I played through them all once with a friend, and that was that.
I played through the original one once on stream and it was fine. Like, I
Yeah,
enjoyed it well enough,
yeah.
but I don't know what it was about it. I just could not really think it was one of the things where I played through it and I'm like, I don't know if I ever want to play another one of these.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it was
Oh
it,
man,
it
come
was it
on.
wasn't bad. It just, I don't know. I think the problem is that because I didn't play it when it first came out, I have played other games since that
Yep.
have used a similar style of the cover-based shooter and not necessarily done it better, but just done it similar. So by the time I went back to Gears of War and it was just like, I don't know, I had no real interest, and it was honestly, the story was a little hard to follow. It kind of reminded me a little bit its storytelling method, at least in the first game. I've heard the second and third that you get a lot more character depth and a lot more like emotional, like
Oh, hell yeah.
emotional hits. But in the first game, the storytelling kind of reminds me the way Medal of Honor would tell the stories, and that like, all right, you are right here. Now you are going to go here, and now
Mhm.
you are going to go here, and your mission is to blow this thing up. And it's just it's very bare bones in terms of storytelling, which is fine. Like, that's how a lot of some of the best games start. They start small and then they get larger as time goes on once they have a bigger budget behind it. So it's just, I don't know.
I
It's just one of those things I could never get into.
That's how I feel. Man, talk about. I feel that way about the when I didn't play the Halo games until much later, like after the Master Chief Collection came out, and the same thing. Like, I did not understand the story beats just from mission to mission. It was like you said. It's like, okay, now you're here, and I got to go get the thing that they're telling me to get, and you got the thing, but now this is happening, and it just didn't. It's. I feel like the Xbox 360, they still didn't quite figure out how to like tell stories that well. It was gameplay over story.
Yeah. I mean, I think just in general, that era, it was always game, and that's fine. Like, there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with gameplay over story, but I think Gears of War gameplay isn't interesting enough to hold my attention. Like, it's I understand why people liked it at the time, especially for the violence. Like, like, it was one of the more violent games you'd ever see. Like, you can chainsaw people in half. It's wonderful.
The active reload. I messed up so many times because I'd forget to hit it the second time.
That was a cool thing that you could do. I always liked the active reload. That was a nice little trick. I'm not The thing is, like, there's certain games that I'll play that I don't like, and I'm always very cautious to make sure that when I say why I don't like it, it's not that the game itself is bad. It's just something that, like, I didn't find fun. And there's a big difference between like a game being bad and a game just me not finding it fun. I always try to approach it that way because there are very few games that I play that objectively I'm like, this is awful game design. And Gears of War isn't awful game design. It's really well designed. I just could not find any interest. I could not find any fun in it for myself.
Get out of here with these reasonable takes. You need to be like, Microsoft ruined my life because of Gears of War.
Let me think
Holy
of what would be the hottest take that would make absolutely no sense that I could. I don't know. I'll think of something. I'll try to think of something. And I'll shout it out randomly in the middle of someone else speaking.
Like, I don't like it. I don't like it, so it's bad.
You mentioned it earlier about how Call of Duty was basically an Xbox franchise, and you're totally right. I had the PlayStation 3 in this era, and none of my friends could play Call of Duty with me because they all had it on Xbox 360.
Yep, and the PS3 version was like had lower frame rate too.
Yeah, and that was back before crossplay, kids. It was back when you had to coordinate with your friends what console everyone had to maximize the people you could play with. And I never thought that crossplay was going to be a thing. Like, I never thought it would actually happen because the Sony and Xbox hated each other too much.
I mean, it's not on like there are still a lot of games that aren't crossplay because Sony's a little bitch. Like, I'll take that out, but maybe not.
Leave that in.
But,
You're not wrong.
So a good example, Smite. Me and my brother-in-law Nova, we play Smite a lot, but for some fuck, I mean, you can play crossplay with anybody really, but like your progression though, like you can't transfer your progress from PC to PS4 or like vice versa. But with Xbox, you can, and you can do the same thing with Switch. Even Switch, you can send your progress from PC to Switch and vice versa. But for whatever reason, Sony is like, no, we're not going to let you do that. You play it only on PS4. Yeah.
It's gotten to the point where I'm surprised.
Not that I hate Sony, by the way. Not that I have anything against Sony. I should say that, but
it's gotten to the point where I'm surprised when a game doesn't have crossplay.
Yeah, like I think a lot of the more popular ones do nowadays.
Oh yeah.
Of course, like Rocket League and Overwatch and
Fortnite.
The aforementioned Smite. Yep, Fortnizzle for shizzle.
I mean, that one's at least a little bit different where it's like, I feel like Epic, actually, I guess it is a third party company. Never mind. I completely invalidated my point because Call of Duty is, Activision. So, yeah, I don't know. Sony lately, I used to be, like I said before, I'm a Sony fanboy, and lately I've kind of gotten away from being a Sony fanboy just because I don't like their stances on game preservation, and I don't like I don't like the cross-play stuff. I also, as much as I am not a fan of the Microsoft Activision acquisition just because of the size of it and worrying about monopolistic shenanigans, it's still like their arguing is kind of like Sony's arguing is very anti-consumer.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm like, well, you're not really putting yourself in a good light here.
It's interesting too because if they would have tried to do this back when the Xbox 360 came out, it would have made more sense because the 360 was so dominant.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, definitely.
And then, well, I guess I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, because boy, did the Xbox One reverse their fortunes.
Yeah, no, we can move on if anybody else, unless anybody else has anything to say about the 360. We've said pretty much everything, unless we want to go like the nitty gritty about how you can buy games digitally now. And
that was important. That was
huge.
cool.
I mean, the Xbox Live Arcade was a huge thing. Super Meat Boy got its start on the Xbox Live Arcade. So did like Fez and a bunch of Braid. Yeah, there's tons.
That was like I remember people being like, "Wow, these games are doing things that I didn't think they're making me feel things I didn't think games could make me feel," or like Braid storytelling specifically.
And they were. Yeah, it was all of these like much smaller games that you didn't buy from a store that were actually good because back then, of course, I was in the mindset that like, oh, if it's on the Xbox Live Arcade, like if it's only like $10 or $20, like it can't be as good as like Oblivion or like I was a really big fan of Blue Dragon. It can't be as good as Blue Dragon, and then of course I played Charlie Murder and Braid, and I was like, dude, like actually. Like, hold the phone. These are good.
And it was
There's a lot of. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it was smaller developers too. Like it was a much more open console to allow people to make their own games and release it on a console, which was unheard of up to that point. You needed a publisher, you needed a development team, you needed all this other stuff. But Xbox was like, yeah, put it on our arcade. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it was a smart choice. Like it pretty much gave birth to the indie market. Not
Absolutely.
like 100%, but like it really helped it a ton.
Oh yeah. In the the 360. What I find so fucking weird about Xbox is like at first with the original Xbox they had lots of cool exclusives, and even with the 360 they had a lot of cool exclusives. But then that kind of started to spiral downward because like the
Yeah.
Xbox One had some good ones at launch, and then and then the Series X, Series X and S, there's not like a whole lot of exclusives to their name. But
It's so weird. But I feel like before we get to the Xbox One fully, we should probably take an ad break.
we'll be right back. Let's face it, life is filled with lots of moments where you don't have immediate access to food. When you're at the zoo, in jail for your 5th DUI, stranded on a desert island,
Hmm.
at your cousin's wedding, stuck in a meeting at work. In those moments, you need Cargo Pop. Cargo Pop is the world's first popcorn maker that you can wear. It may look like normal cargo pants on the outside, but on the inside, each pocket uses a special
Yes.
heating element to superheat the pockets enough to make popcorn. Cargo Pop is so easy to use that a brain-dead quadriplegic chimp could do it. Here's how it works. Just load one or more of the pockets on Cargo Pop full of popcorn kernels, then close the pocket. Then, press the button above the pocket, and in 2 minutes, ding, fresh popcorn. While the popcorn is being made, you may feel a slight burning sensation, but that's okay. Just make sure to stand completely still for around 5 minutes so that the pockets can cool off after the popcorn's done. Cargo Pop comes in 2 variations, full length and shorts. Full length has 6 pop kits, our copyrighted term for the pockets that make popcorn, and the shorts have 4 pop kits. If you're still on the fence about Cargo Pop, try asking a few of our satisfied customers like Tommy.
I've been using them so much. I've actually been slathering butter on my outer thighs where the pockets are, so that it soaks through and it like pre-butters the popcorn as I use it.
Perfect. What about you, Josh? What was your experience with Cargo Pop like?
I never have to wear sweatpants in the winter again because Cargo Pops keeps my legs nice and toasty all year long.
Perfect. Still not on board? Then we'll throw in some free gifts with your order. No one likes just plain popcorn, so we're throwing in the Cargo Pop flavor bandolier and the Jumbo Cargo Pop butter jug for absolutely free. Cargo Pop flavor bandolier can be worn around your torso like so. It comes with 10 different flavors like ranch, nacho cheese, cinnamon sugar, and more. And the Jumbo Cargo Pop butter jug can clip snugly to one of the belt loops on Cargo Pop, so you can butter your popcorn anywhere, anytime. There's no good reason at all for not ordering a pair of Cargo Pop. Cargo pants aren't outdated, you're outdated. Call now. Warning, Cargo Pop can cause severe burns to the legs and is not machine washable. Cargo Pop should not be worn near a microwave, magnets, or any source of water, or near any source of heat for an extended period of time, including the sun. Cargo Pop is not responsible for any burns or bodily harm caused by this product. Use at your own risk.
I love that you read that so fast when like you could just edit yourself to sound faster.
I could, but I could say it fast just fine.
love it.
We're back, by the way.
We're back.
Thanks, Cargo Pop.
Man, yeah, thanks for the money. Man, oh man, Microsoft just dropped the ball so bad with the Xbox One.
Oh wait, the Blades dashboard for the 360, that was cool.
I never experienced that. I played after the Blades. So all I know is everyone I've ever met in my life tells me that the Blades were the best thing they've ever experienced, and I don't. Why was it so great? Tell me.
I think it's just the nostalgia, because it definitely was more usable and more, I guess, streamlined with like what they call the new Xbox experience. But no, it was just cool. It was like there was one blade for games, one for the store, one for like movies and shit like that, and it was cool. I liked it.
Nice.
Now we can move on. Now you have my permission.
You know what wasn't cool? The Xbox One.
Thomas.
Hard disagree. No, it had a lot of issues.
Like between the Xbox 360, like I became like you, a huge Sony phone boy, Sony fanboy.
Sandy phone boy.
I'm leaving that in. That's staying in. Sandy phone boy.
Big Sandy phone boy.
I'm a Sandy boy.
A Sony fanboy at the PlayStation 3, so I like really paid attention to the console development, and so everything that Microsoft revealed with the Xbox One, I just scoffed at. I was like, why would you want cable in your Xbox console?
That was actually pretty cool at the time.
It was a good idea, but it was the whole. So they were a couple years too early with the always online thing. Now I think as much as I hate the always online thing, and I always will, I feel the market now is a lot more receptible or a lot more open to that idea because pretty much things are online all the time anyway.
Yes, exactly.
But back then it was the transition period, so people weren't used to that. I still hate it because I hate the fact that like there are games that you can't play unless you're online. I'm like, well, the DRM at that point is just you. I don't know. It really makes me mad. But they jumped the gun too early with that. They also packaged it with the Kinect,
Oh
which
man, the Kinect.
yeah, and since you could basically, and this was also pre Alexa, like pre, the smart home devices or whatever, where you're always having to say something. Which actually now I apologize to anyone listening who might have an Echo in their home because since I just said the name, if you're listening to this out loud, it might have alerted a bunch of them. But but at the time though, the whole thing you were going to say is Xbox on, and the whole idea was to be able
Yeah.
to just speak your Xbox on, and everyone was freaking out like it's listening all the time because it has to be listening
Yeah,
all the time
yeah.
so it knows to do that. And I still am honestly freaked out by that. That's more of me being slightly paranoid than anything. But like we have an Echo in our home. Like I feel like once again, people are much more receptive to the idea of a
Absolutely.
device constantly listening to you all the time, which is a little creepy now that I think about it. But it jumped the gun on so many different things, and then on
Yep.
top of that, it tried to incorporate everything into one device, which would have been smart, and hence why their naming scheme fit in with it. It was supposed to be an all-in-one device, hence the Xbox One. But Microsoft is up there. Like I feel like Microsoft consistently, with the exception of the Xbox to Xbox 360, likes to do what Nintendo did with the Wii U, just giving it the worst naming schemes
Yes.
possible. Because the Xbox One, like we can't say Xbox One anymore without talking about this console. It's not. We have to now say the original
Mhm.
Xbox or the OG Xbox.
Yeah.
And then it made it matter to make matters worse. The Xbox, like the Pro version of it, kind of how there was the PS4 Pro. It was the Xbox Series, or sorry, the Xbox One X.
Yep.
Was like the Pro version of the Xbox One. And then their sequel console, the Series systems, was the Xbox Series X.
Yep.
So it's like you're confusing everybody with your stupid naming schemes. And this in this console, the One is really where it started.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it just so much was stacked against it. And it really is a shame because I actually like the controller for this more than the 360, believe it or not. And I like there's a decent amount. I shouldn't say a decent, but there's a few exclusives for this system. I mean, some of you can get on PC, but if you want to play it like on a home console type of thing, you can only get them on the Xbox. The Ori games, Ori and the Blind Forest.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Stop it. Stop.
so good, so good.
I've played Ori and the Blind 4. I played through it like 4 times. I prefer it over Will of the Wisps, but that's my own personal opinion. But yeah.
Going back to the always online thing, I want to make sure I say this because it's insane. Back when they announced the only online thing, there was an interview where they asked the head of Xbox and it was like, "Hey, what about people who don't have internet access?" Which was more of a thing back then. And he was like,
It
"Oh yeah,
still is kind of a thing too.
yeah." He was like, "Oh, we have a console for them. It's the Xbox 360," which was just
What a bitch.
such a slap in the face. Like
Oh
Seriously.
my god.
so out of touch. They were definitely ahead of their time, but at the same time, it's like they were telling gamers what they want instead of asking, I guess, if that makes sense. Like Kinect's
Yeah.
gonna be the next big thing. You're gonna love it, and everyone's like, wait, no, we won't.
Yeah, because like that was one of the main reasons that people bought. Well, I guess that wasn't one of the main reasons why people bought a PS4, but like a PS4 was just like it plays good games and it has lots of
mhm.
exclusives, no bullshit.
They-
And then the Xbox One is like, hey, it plays games, and you can connect other devices through HDMI out, and it has Kinect, and then there was the fucking Windows 8 bullshit UI that sucked butt.
they
Mhm.
they originally weren't gonna allow you to play games on someone else's console. That was
Yeah, or used games.
yeah, they were not going to allow used games on the console, which is nuts.
I
God
remember
damn.
that. I did remember something apparently got clarified later on that it wasn't nearly that strict as their marketing clearly made it seem like
Yeah.
it was their marketing's fault 100%
Mhm.
because they tried to like go back on it and explain like no you can, and it was just poorly explained, but they never really explained it well.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there was that because they did eventually also revert like I said, go back on it completely, like
Yep.
they completely clarified it, but by then it was way too late.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And that was the big issue, like it was way too late. And freaking what is it, Sony put out that wicked marketing
Oh,
campaign
so good.
where after it kind of came out like, oh, you can't share games on a system. And the president of Sony came out with I forget, I mean maybe like the head of like Sony America or something along those lines, or like, here's how easy it is to share games on your PlayStation 4. And it was just the president going, here you go. Thank you. And
Yeah.
that was it. It was like a 10-second ad.
Yeah, it
And
was
it was
at
genius.
E3, and it was just like, just perfect timing. Just you could not have written anything better at that exact moment than that. Like that shifted everything.
They play that one GIF afterwards where it's like, "I just ruined this whole man's
Yeah,
man's whole career or
exactly.
whatever."
Yeah.
Man, once another thing that's they really dropped the ball on with the Xbox One was that like at first they had a lot of cool exclusives, like quite a few third-party exclusives, and then it just I think that was what during the first third of its life, and then after that it was just like it went out with a gasp because it
Yeah.
was like we had Halo Wars 2,
Oh man, Halo Wars.
and then like that was it. That was it for like fucking years.
And they still
'Cause at
haven't.
first it was-
I feel like they still haven't really recovered from this either. Because they keep making, they buy studios up. They make promises like we're gonna have more first party exclusives, but they just, like you said, game development takes a long time now, and it feels like it's nowhere near what it was in the Xbox 360 era.
Yeah.
Or even the original Xbox, that thing
Yeah.
had just lots of exclusives. But like at first, the one seemed very promising because it had like a
Mhm,
launch had
mhm.
Rise Son of Rome, which
Oh
was
my gosh,
cool.
yeah.
What else was there? I wasn't prepared for this. They had a lot of other. cool
There
ones.
was one of my personal favorites,
Oh,
other than the Ori
Forza?
series, which we already mentioned.
Mm.
I also really, really loved, oh my god, Sunset Overdrive by
Yes.
Insomniac. Sunset
That's why I
Overdrive
bought it.
is so fucking good, and
Yep.
it never gets the credit it deserves.
Absolutely.
It's a really fun open world third person shooter. It has really fun movement mechanics, like some of the most fluid and fun movement mechanics in a game. It because
Really
it's
wacky weapons.
it's very wacky, it's very goofy. It's from the same people who made Ratchet and Clank. It's from Insomniac Games before they became a PlayStation exclusive developer. And it's a really good console. It's a really good game, and I really think it doesn't get enough credit for what it did. There was also the Rare replay on it, which
yes.
played a
Mhm.
bunch of the Rare, like Banjo Kazooie, Banjo Tooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, anything that Nintendo didn't exclusively own, you could play on it, which was awesome.
Oh, and Dead Rising 3, like that was
Mm.
it had some problems, but it was fun. It was an open world Dead Rising, and it was fun. Of course, Forza is good, and yeah, it was.
Oh,
And
I
then- and then-
forgot about Forza. Yeah.
And then yeah, like I said, it kind of like gasped its way out of existence because like you had like the Gears of War Definitive Edition, like the
Mhm.
remaster of the first Gears, and then like months later you got Halo Wars 2, and then there was like nothing after that, and then finally Sea of Thieves, and then now
The Xbox One kind of had their mainline series also like have the lesser versions, I want to say. I don't know if that sounds right. Like, didn't Xbox One have Halo Guardians, and it also had Gears of War 4, which wasn't as well received as the original trilogy, and
yeah.
stuff like that. Man, it's a shame. It's sad.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and
It
even like Crackdown 3,
Oh,
like
man, that
Crackdown
was-
1 was really
yeah.
good, and then 2 was okay, but then 3 it kind of seemed like
development
like a soulless
forever.
husk. Yeah. I mean, it had Terry Crews, but that couldn't save it.
somehow. I-
The one also had the first Titanfall game.
Oh
Oh yes, that was so good.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Thank you for bringing a positive.
And
Then-
also, sorry, one last one. Recore. It's an indie game, but it was a really fun indie game. I actually, we brought. I actually interviewed the composer for that game, Chad
Ooh.
Sider, on the show like a year or two ago. And actually, we brought up Ori. I interviewed Gareth Coker, who did the music for that game too.
Ooh.
So I've had the composers of both Recore on and the Ori game series, and I love the music in Ori. But like Recore, I never got to beat. It got really difficult towards the end, but it was a really fun like third person open world shooter, and it was a really fun story and I really enjoyed what I played of it, and I feel like it doesn't really get talked about at all because it was kind of a smaller tier release, which is
Yeah.
kind of a bummer.
it was kind of janky at launch too, because there was a lot of places where there was just no collisions, you could go through shit, and then there was a lot of stuff that was missing from the game too, because like there was a missing, I forget what the companions were called, but like in the game there was like a spot for one of the companions, but you didn't get them until like after the like a much later update. But after that update, like the version you can download on Game Pass now, it's absolutely the best way to play it. Yeah, I was when they announced that at E3 so long ago, I was so excited for it because it was like finally like an Xbox, like a cool, awesome looking Xbox exclusive that looks like it was made for me. And it was, from what I played as well. Yeah, it was good. It was fun. It was, yeah.
Another.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say another positive to say about Microsoft later in the Xbox One. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they eventually get back to like, oh, we should actually make backwards compatibility a priority? Let's go back and make as many games as we possibly can backwards compatible near the later part of the Xbox One life cycle.
I think so. I know in general they are much more open about backwards compatibility, and they actually work at making their games and their systems backwards compatible.
Yeah, which is good for them. I'm glad they did that.
Yeah, and they also did the Xbox Play Anywhere, which is cool because it was like certain games that you bought on either PC or Xbox, you got like a free copy of that game for the, the vice versa one, which was really cool because most people, if you owned an Xbox, you probably also had a PC or something. But you could also, like, if you didn't have a PC or like if you didn't have an Xbox, you could give the key away to somebody that does have that system, and they could just have that fucking game for free, which was really cool.
Oh yeah.
And then, now there's toward the end of the One's life cycle, they've made a lot of, well, I guess they haven't made a lot of exclusives, but like they have a lot of like indie exclusives, like Deep Rock Galactic. I had a few in my brain a second ago, but I can't think of Pentiment. I think is still exclusive to Xbox. Yep.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know Pentiment was exclusive to Xbox.
Yeah, it's a Bethesda's, not Bethesda, the other one, the other
Obsidian.
Thank you. Yes, it's an Obsidian game.
Yeah, they have. There's quite a few games that like you wouldn't think are exclusive to Xbox now, but are, which is kind of cool. And then I don't know about like, well, I guess we'll get to Series X later on, but yeah, the Xbox One eventually got a much better UI from that piece of shit Windows 8 thing, because I hated that fucking shit so much.
Did you guys? What was your guys' experience with the Kinect? Because I only played one once, and I was like, this does not work.
Never touched one in my life. Had no interest. Motion controls were never a thing. The other issue with the Kinect is they really. It wasn't Microsoft's fault entirely, but when one of the reasons the one also. The Kinect didn't click, I should say. One of the reasons the Kinect didn't click is that it was coming on the heels of the Wii.
Yes.
And the Wii, as much as it was super popular and sold extremely well, by the end of its life cycle, which is around when this system was coming out, there was the common perception in the gaming community, as far as I remember, was that yeah, the Wii is cool and it has some really good Nintendo titles, but the games itself aren't that great on the system because they focus too much on the movement controls. Like you have to use the Wiimotes way too much, and Nintendo makes you shoehorn stuff into your game design in order to put it on your system. And you would see it all the time, even especially on like the DS, where they would make you do stuff with the touchscreen that it wasn't necessarily a good fit for the game itself, but because it was on the system, Nintendo's like, no, you got to use the touchscreen, or no, you got to use the Wiimote. So I think in general at the time, like motion controls were really not something that was looked upon with any level of favoritism in the gaming by the gaming community.
Yeah.
So then you come out with a system with like the Xbox One that forces you to get motion controls with it. It forces you into a gimmick that you don't care about. Like the vast majority of the consumer base did not care about. And it's frustrating too, because from what I understand, the Kinect, when it worked, was really cool, and especially later on in its life cycle, it was a really cool system. There was some cool shit that you could do, like game devs would do with the Kinect too. There was one where, what is it? I think you would use the Kinect with this, but I'm just gonna try to remember. But essentially, it was a way for it to like map out the room you were in, and you could then project. If you had a projector hooked up to your TV, or as the way to like show the game or play the game, you could actually play it. You could actually show more than what the TV would show. Like you could broadcast the rest of it around your room. It was kind of cool, and I believe it needed the Kinect to do that, but I don't quite remember.
I remember seeing a person was playing a kart racer, and it was a snowy stage, and so the projector would make it look like it was snowing all around you.
That's so cool.
Another cool thing about the Kinect too is like they eventually ended up using it in like hospitals and shit for surgery simulators and shit like that. Like that's really cool.
Yeah, like it had a lot of cool practical things. It was marketed poorly.
This is so random, but a sign of how good, quote unquote, I guess, the Xbox controller is how you always see that's what the military uses for their driving things, I guess.
Yep.
That's so weird.
It's a good controller, man.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Oh man.
And that brings us to, well, I guess, do you guys have anything else to say about the one before I kick off this sweet segue?
I don't. Oh no, I don't want to interrupt your segue.
I was just gonna say, and that brings us to the Series X controller, where they had the better D-pad.
Oh, I love this D-pad. I'm gonna hit it right now. Oh yeah, I'm hitting it right now.
And the bumpers on the original Xbox One controllers were such ass, because like I played a bunch of the Killer Instinct reboot, and I used the bumpers a lot, and I fucking just destroyed them. Like you had to really push them down in order for them to work. But they made them a lot better with the Series XS controller.
I love the texture. I love the bumpies. The texture on the triggers, on the handles, on the sticks.
And the share button's cool. I like that way better than having to press like the guide button and then go to the where you press the guide button and press Y to take a screenshot or some shit.
I like that they also made it just a tiny bit smaller than the Xbox One controller. Like, I don't know what the reasoning was, but when they first revealed it, they're like, yeah, it's a little bit smaller, and when you feel it, you're like, oh yeah, this is a little bit smaller.
Oh, and we didn't even talk about like the snap feature on the Xbox.
Yeah,
One
you need to talk about that because I never experienced it.
Okay, we'll backpedal there for just a second. But yeah, the snap
rewind.
Feature, you could be like, say you're playing Forza, you pressed the guide button twice and it would bring up the menu thing, because normally back in the day with the Xbox One, if you press the guide button once, it would go to the home screen, which is stupid. You had to press the guide button twice for it to bring up the in-game guide thing, and so when that came up, instead of being like translucent, like appearing over your screen, you can see everything else, it would actually like shrunk your screen and took up like a small, like maybe like 1/6 of the screen. But anyway, you could select like a different app or something like that to use. So you can have like Netflix playing in that small screen while you're playing a game, or you could be like on like Internet Explorer, or they had a Domino's app. You could order a fucking pizza.
Ooh.
And fun fact, you could also tell you, if you had the Domino's app installed, you could tell your Connect, hey Xbox, order me some food from Domino's or whatever, and it would open up Domino's and your order would be on there and shit. That was cool, but...
man, we gotta go back. We gotta go back. Still, we gotta stick with the Xbox One.
Okay.
I remember a video, you mentioned how you could say Xbox on or Xbox off. I remember a video where someone changed their Xbox gamer tag to be Xbox off, so that when people would get mad and they'd be like, Xbox off killed me, and they would turn their Xbox off.
They
What a
eventually
dick
changed
move.
it. Eventually, it was like Xbox turn off, and then you had to say yes because it would confirm
Yeah.
that, yeah.
That's
Okay.
genius,
Oh, man.
though.
Okay, we can go back
That
to the
is
present.
genius. Okay, fast forward. We did like a Malcolm in the Middle. Malcolm in the Middle. What
Yes.
is it? He looks at the camera and like it freezes. It's like, hey, let's talk about the Series One or talk about the Xbox One again. Whatever. Okay, Series X. Here we are. It's the future. I don't know if there's any like Series X or S exclusives yet, but I have the Series S. It's
And I have the
natively
Series X.
woohoo, natively 1440p.
I have neither.
Yeah.
I love it. I love my Series X. It's might be my favorite console just because of the number of games that you can play on Game Pass. With past consoles, I was always hamstrung by this thing called money and being able to afford games. And now with Game Pass, I just give them $15 a month and they're like, play everything. And I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? And they're like, yeah, do it.
Yeah,
It's a good deal, man.
It's an insane deal. It's absurd. When you look at Sony, who's like, you want to play The Last of Us 1 again? Give us $70. And Microsoft's like, I just play all the Halos, all the gear, just $15. That's all we want.
it's also
it's
cool
nuts.
that like it's everything's so accessible. Like a lot of games from not just the 360, well, I guess games from the Xbox One, they play just natively without any like bullshit or troubleshooting or anything like that. They play just fine on the Series X and S, and then almost a bunch of 360 games are backwards compatible on there. You just install them, you play just
Red-
fine. It's great. They're
Red-
even upscaled.
Red Dead Redemption in 4K, the first one.
Yeah, like God intended. Thank you, God.
Thank you,
And
Lord.
Microsoft. And yeah, then a lot of OG Xbox games are backwards compatible, and they play fucking fantastic. Like I played a little bit of Blinks, and that game's just too hard for me. So I played like the first 2 levels and died, and I was like, this played great, but fuck it.
You can play
Does
your
it-
old saves.
Yeah, dude.
Does it do you with the when you play the original Xbox games, is there any input delay when they're trying to, like, I guess because it's outputting it natively at 4K, but one of the issues with like older systems, things that were not in HD, is that when you upscale them to HD, it causes input delay because it's having to literally take a 480p video signal and then upscale it to 1080, or in this instance, 4K or something like that. So did you notice any like input delay, or was it harder to control any of your OG Xbox games on the Series X?
The only one I've played is Red Dead Redemption, and I did not notice, but I also use the snap to aim, not manual aiming. So I probably wouldn't even notice because I'm just like boom, dead, boom, dead.
Well, I mean, that was also an HG game, but who said they
Oh,
were playing Blinks
fair.
though?
This guy right here.
Oh, okay.
I played Blinks. There was another one I played a little bit of too. I think it was like Red Skies, and I mean they play just fine. There's no input lag. They play, I don't know the wizardry behind what they do, but yeah, they play just smooth as butter, like just natively. It feels like they were like made for the Xbox whatever now, because I mean they
Oh,
were
that's
also made.
awesome.
You say wizardry, but there's so much about the Xbox Series X that feels like magic, like specifically the quick resume and being able
yes.
to just hold 6 games at a time where you exactly where you left off and they just load up instantly. You can unplug your Xbox, take it wherever, plug it back in, and the quick resumes are still there. How does that happen?
Oh yeah, they recently did that thing where they want to try to like help people save energy, so you can. Because I used to be the kind of guy that would just put my Xbox in a standby, the quick turn on, whatever the fuck it's called in the menu. But no, now I switched it to like the power saving thing where it actually fully shuts down.
Yeah.
And it still boots up so fucking fast, and I'll still have Resident Evil 4 remake on quick resume from the night before, and I don't know how they do it.
Do you want to
It's
know
cool.
what? Do you want to know what drives me absolutely insane?
Huh.
The Mass Effect Legendary Edition just doesn't use quick resume. It's just not. They didn't make it available.
Weird.
So every
Yeah.
time I start Mass Effect, it has to go through the whole thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember the last time I had to go through the. You just don't see like the BioWare made this, and then here's the main menu, and going through all that, because with quick resume you just jump back in where you were,
Yep.
and you only see a main menu once.
That's kind of awesome, though. I had no idea you could do. I've been debating on which I want to get, the PS5 or the Series X, and it's weird. I'm probably going to go with the PS5 just because it has the new Ratchet and Clank on it, and that's my
Yeah.
favorite series. But if it wasn't for that, I'd probably be leaning towards the Series X.
Yeah,
Oh,
I wish
yeah.
I wish I love the controller for the PS5. I've never actually used one, but I just love the idea behind HD Rumble and everything. So I kind of wish the Series X had like done a little bit more with the controller, but it is still a very very good controller.
Yeah, it is. And it's also cool that the like any Xbox One controllers will work with the Series X,
Yep,
and then vice
yep.
versa too. Like any Series XS controllers will work with the Xbox One. So like
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, you don't have to buy brand new ass controllers. Like if you have like if your little brother wants to play the Master Chief Collection with you or something, you'd be like, oh yeah, just bring your Xbox One controller that's missing a stick or whatever, and we'll play. And
It's
no goofing around. You just sync it like you normally would, and bam, you're playing Halo 2.
they just
I don't know if
go on.
sorry, go
No,
ahead.
you
I was
you.
just I don't know if they're still doing this, but just kind of thinking about the stuff that Microsoft has done to make the Series X more consumer
Yes.
friendly. We've been listing off a bunch of them between backwards compatibility and the controllers, which I did not know about the controllers. But I don't know if they're still doing this, but I remember when it launched, a couple of years ago, you could do a layaway plan, like you could
Oh
without
yes,
having
yes.
like I don't know if they're still doing that,
They
but
are.
I'll
Yeah,
be
they are.
honest, they are.
$25 a month, I
Oh.
want to say it is.
I think it's right on their website.
And they just give
too.
you an Xbox.
Yeah.
That's kind of insane. I
Yeah.
might have to do that because I might have that. That's just such an easy way to get a new system.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's you took the words right out of my mouth though. How they like just did a complete 180 from Xbox One and trying to tell the gamers what they want to the Series X being like, okay, we know what you want now.
Because when they first announced the Xbox One, they were like, fuck the consumer, and then
Yeah.
the Series X or S, they were like,
We
yes, we'll fuck the consumer.
Please
but
come
in a-
back.
in a
make
sweet
love
way.
to the consumer. I will say the one thing they haven't reached the promise on was the capabilities of the SSD in actual games, as
Hmm.
like because that was like their big selling point was like the SSD is going to change everything. But I haven't really seen too many games take advantage of that. Sure, they like load insanely fast, like there's almost no loading for anything, but like for actual game development or game uses or anything, I haven't really seen the SSD do much. Like
Yeah, I
with
can't-
Ratchet and Clank, they were like, there's no loading screens, and they kind of use that to like with the teleporting, where it does stuff that you just wouldn't have been able to do without an
Yeah.
SSD.
Mhm.
I haven't really seen that as much on the Xbox.
I mean, it does load very fast.
Oh, yeah, super fast.
When I was playing through, because they made Symphony of the Night backwards compatible on the Xbox One, and it plays on the Series S and shit. So, yeah, the loading screens that normally took like quite a long time, like on the original, like on the original release on the 360, it's just like it's done.
On
Like you go to a room and that's it.
I had a MLB The Show like 11 or 13 for PlayStation 3, and the loading times are insanely long, like after game, before a game, whatever. And when you play the new one on the Series X, you don't even there's no loading. Like at the end of the game, it's like, do you want to play the next one? And you can hit yes, and it just boom, instantly you're starting the next game.
It really is amazing. And like, I'm happy that this generation, it seems like the console manufacturers really focused on the amount of time you're waiting to get into a
Mhm.
game, because it had like a 2-year awkward growing transition where it was like, if you installed any game on your 360 or PS3, it'd take forever. And then it was a little bit better on the PS4. Actually, it was a decent chunk better on the PS4 and One X, or oh my gosh, Xbox One. The
There you
stupid naming scheme, man, it's tripping me up. So I'm happy to hear with the new systems that it seems like they really focused on this part of the user experience. I really need to get my hands on one of these new systems. I even take out the whole money issue, I don't know where the hell I would put it in my house.
It's a big boy. The Xbox Series X is, at least. It's a very tall man.
Looks like a
Dude.
fridge.
Not the one. Fuck. The Series S is surprisingly small. Like it's
Yes.
smaller than the OG Xbox One, which is like a fucking VCR from the 1980s. It's smaller than the Xbox One S. It's so small, but it's my work is they gave me some native 1440p monitors, and
Ooh.
the One S being native 1440p, it plays so well on there. It's so surprising that like something so small can be so powerful.
Another weird thing is with the 1 terabyte of internal memory, and like you said, games are easier than ever to download. I basically don't have a physical game collection. I got the Series X a couple of months after launch, and I own 2 discs. I have Red Dead Redemption for Xbox 360, and I have Elden Ring. Those are the only 2 physical games I own for my Series X. Everything else is digital because there's just so much space. It's so fast
Yep.
to do everything.
I
Yeah,
kind of
the
I kind of miss physical media,
Me
but
too.
like I'm a collector. Like I'm always
Yeah.
a sucker for it because I don't like what digital media necessarily. As much as digital media is nice because of the immediacy of it and not having to wait for anything and not having to physically go anywhere, it's wonderful. But I also don't like how if a game company wants, they can just be like, nope,
Yes.
goodbye.
Yes.
You can't play this anymore. With that said, it's almost not even worth the physical stuff anymore, and that kills me. That hurts my soul to say it, but like
Mhm.
most physical games now require the online connection anyway, so what's the difference?
Or you'll
It-
buy the case and it just comes with a code.
Oh,
yeah, that's
yep.
Vomit.
it's just, then why even bother wasting the plastic at that point?
Yeah.
Honestly, you could have just made some milk jugs or like anything else that we that we actually could use. I don't know. I don't know if people still drink milk because I sure don't. I just use it for cereal.
Another great thing about this generation of Xbox is they've really nailed the play anywhere aspect, where you just buy a
Yep.
game and you can play it on your PC, you can play it on your phone through the cloud, you can play it on the Xbox, and it's just the same thing. It's not like this is the PC version, this is the phone version. It's just the same exact game with your
Mhm.
saves, with everything. They've just taken the technology and done such cool stuff with it.
It's also cool too is like the different apps that they have. I wish they would combine the Xbox app with the or
Yes.
on your
I
mobile
agree.
phones, I should say. I wish they would merge the Game Pass app with the Xbox app because they're separate for whatever
Yep.
reason. But they both work. Like it's awesome because for one, when my Series S is powered all the way down, it still updates games on its own, which is just it's magical to me. That's crazy. But yeah, you can set games to install
Yeah.
on your Xbox
Yeah.
even if it's turned off, which
Do-
I don't understand how they do it, but it does it. And then the Xbox app is just cool because you can just control your Xbox remotely with your phone. So like, if I want to watch TV if I want to boot up Sling while I'm working, I'll just use the app instead of getting out a controller or something, and it's cool.
Do you want to hear? So I got my Xbox Series X. I loaded up the app and connected the Series X to it. And then I looked and there was another Xbox attached to my account. And I was like, what is this? I'd never had an Xbox before the Series X. So I just like tapped it and like downloaded a small game just to see what would happen, like a small indie game. And like a few hours later, a friend texted me and he was like, hey, you're the only person I know who could do this. Did you download a game to my Xbox? And I was like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I did, I guess. I don't know how I'm connected to it. He lives in like a totally different state than me.
What?
Yeah, I don't know how.
Did he tell you how your phone was connected to his Xbox?
No, we have no idea how it happened. I've
That's so
definitely
weird.
like gone over there a couple times and played his Xbox, but like, yeah, when I loaded up the app on my phone and started connecting everything, I was connected to his Xbox.
Oh, I guess. Wait, when I used to game share with my buddy Jared, because you can license share, like you can share your licenses with people, so like they can play the games you play, and then you can play the games that they buy and shit like that. Whenever he would download, like buy a new game and download it, it would automatically download to my Xbox as well, and vice versa. So, I don't. Maybe it has like your
Maybe.
console's MAC
Yeah.
address. I don't know.
That's so weird.
Wild. Xbox is pretty cool.
We haven't really talked about games on the Series X yet because
Okay.
they haven't really had too many exclusives. I personally loved Halo Infinite, the campaign. It was probably my favorite Halo game I played. Pentiment I love. I feel like this year is going to be big with Starfield. I'm very excited for Starfield, but there's still like we said before, it just doesn't feel like they've got the big Xbox exclusives that make people buy the system.
Yeah, that's true. Because I would have thought that Halo would have been that, but I guess probably not. I can't think of. I mean, I guess maybe I'll try to get through some of the Forzas because I've always been interested in Forza.
Yeah,
but like,
Forzas
I'm
are
more
fun.
of a kart racer kind of guy.
I'm a neither racer kind of guy. I could never get into kart racing or
Ooh.
racing. Forza, at least Forza Horizon's like the open world one, right?
Yeah.
That one seemed really interesting to me. But other than that, I've never been a big racing game fan, with the exception of there's a PS1 snowmobile racing game called
Ooh.
Sledstorm.
Whew. That sounds
Whoa.
awesome. Sledstorm.
It's a fun game. I really, really like it. We're not talking about PS1 games though. That'll be an episode. That'll be a topic for a different episode. But it's a fun racing game for the PS1.
Redfall looks cool. That like Vampire Hunter game that looks kind of cool. It's an open world like Left 4 Dead almost kind of thing, but with vampires. And yeah, that looks pretty rad.
I Forza Horizon 4 really hooked me, and like I wasn't even like, this is an amazing game. I just enjoyed playing it, and then like it got to a point where the achievement popped up and it was like, you did all the races, and I was like, I what?
That's insane. It's an open world game, so that had to be a ton.
Yeah. I didn't even try to. Like, I wasn't trying to completion it or anything. I just kept finding races and kept doing them, and it was a fun time. And then I was done, and then I just stopped playing, and I was like, I guess that's it.
Hell yeah. Well, right on. Anything else? Anybody? Yeah.
No, I think I've said all that I know about Xboxes.
That's all the Xboxes then.
I mean, I don't think I have anything else really to add. My main area of expertise is Halo 1, but yeah, original Xbox, because that's where all my Halo parties were at. That's where all my core memories were kind of like, it's where I spent most of my time playing. And it's funny that even though I prefer the 1 over the 360 just because I like some of the games more on it, I've played more on my 360 just more recently, I guess. So though lately I can't get my 360 to connect to Wi-Fi, and I was about 20 hours into Assassin's Creed 2 for the first time.
Ooh. And
I couldn't connect it, and fucking Ubisoft was like, nope, you need to be online for this single player experience.
Oh my god.
And I deleted my profile because I was trying to look up stuff, but then I couldn't connect to the Xbox Live again. So then I can't re-download my profile to get my save again. So I'm like 20 hours into this game. I'm like, God damn it. Am I ever going to get a chance to finish this game? I don't know. I have no idea if it's even going to have my save file when I get back to it. Unless, like you said, if it's connected to my 360 account, if I pop in the game on my Xbox One.
Yeah, it's worth a shot.
Possibly.
I'll see if I can figure something like that out. We'll find out.
Stay tuned, everyone. Find their social media at where?
At Still Loading Pod on Twitter, Facebook, Twitter as long as it's alive, but Facebook and Instagram.
And you'll get updated on if this works. And where can they find us, Aaron? Oh, this is such a good transition. I'm so proud of myself.
Yes. Thank you, Tommy. Yes, they can find us at superpodsaga.com. Everything they need to know about us, including our Patreon. If anybody wants to subscribe, we've got cool stuff, cool perks. Yes, Patreon, $2, $3, or $4 a month.
Yes.
Back to you, Tommy.
Yes.
Oh, wait.
Oh.
And a shout out to our one and only patron at Novel Console. Check them out.
Yes. Xbox. Comment on our pages about your favorite Xbox stuff. Tell Josh that Gears of War is the best game ever made. All that good stuff.
No, it's not. That's a lie. It is an average shooter at best.
Oh man, I love it. Thank you for being here, though, Josh. You had a ton of great insight, and I really love that.
Oh, thank you for inviting me on. I always I always like guesting on other people's shows, and I don't get as much of a chance as often as I'd like to guest on other people's shows. So it's either because I talk too much, so I apologize for that,
No,
or I'm
that's
not
great.
that interesting. So we'll either, but either way, I had a good time here.
Oh, if I had to choose between someone talking too much or not talking enough, I'm gonna choose talking too much every single time. So
Exactly.
thank you.
Yeah.
But it is my turn to pick the topic for next week. Everyone, hold on to your pants.
Holden.
I want to talk about the best features of failed consoles, which sounds kind of strange,
Ooh.
but
That's a
no.
great topic.
Aaron and I like to have positivity on our podcast because we think games are good. And I've been trying for a long time to figure out, like, well, how do we talk about things? Because there are consoles, there are games that didn't live up to it. So I want to talk about the best features of failed game consoles so we can bring some positivity.
If
Oh
you
my God,
don't
this is
bring
cool.
up obviously the Dreamcast, but also the Sega Game Gear.
Yep.
Trying to think of other I don't. This is a really obscure one. The Sega Pico,
I've only heard of it.
Shit.
Sega Pico. I think it's a Pico. The Sega Pico. That thing is. I don't know if failed is the right term because it's kind of more of an edutainment console.
Oh, interesting. I need to read about this when we're done.
Yeah, I will. I'm not going to talk about it too much on here. I'll tell you a little bit off mic, so just to whet your appetite. But it's a really cool console. I actually have the console boxed with a couple games.
Nice. Okay. Look forward to us talking next week about the best parts of failed consoles. Check out the Still Loading podcast to hear a bunch of stuff about video games and interviews and things. And have a fun rest of your day. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye. Josh, say goodbye.
Josh, say bye.
I did say bye.
Oh, say it again.
Bye.